And now, from beyond our dimension, this is the JeffMara podcast. Here's Jeff.
My guest is Mónica Esgueva, renowned self-development teacher, TEDx speaker, and a frequent Spanish national TV guest who is known for bridging the gap between Eastern and Western philosophies. With a profound understanding of the mind, human consciousness, and spirituality, she has been helping people transform their lives, transcend their suffering, and leave the matrix behind. Mónica, thank you for joining me and welcome.
Thank you for having me, Jeff. I'm so happy to be here with you today.
Well, we are happy to have you. And Mónica, let's start how you left a career of being an economist and how did you get into this spiritual stuff?
Well, I was born spiritual, so that was something very normal for me. When I was a child, I would ask my parents, where do we come from? What is the meaning of life? And I knew I was not coming from Earth. That was not my home. So at one time, I asked my father directly, it's like, where do I come from? Trying to find answers. And he said, well, we got you from under a bridge. You were living with gypsies and we brought you home. And I burst out crying because I felt so misunderstood. And from then on, I kept quiet about it. And I started my spiritual quest very, very early. I tried to find answers and I tried to first go into the Catholic religion because it was available close to me in Spain at the time. But of course, I found that the church was not very coherent with Jesus' words and message. So at some point, I left that. And when I was 14, 15, I started reading all sorts of books on transcendence and spirituality, understanding the mind. And I continue like that. Of course, I tried to fit in. So I married early. I studied economics and I had a master's degree. But what I felt, I was at that time I was living in Paris. I had a very well-off life. We had very good trips, social life, everything a normal life aspires to, really. But I felt deeply unfulfilled. So what I did is I went to India. I went to Dharamsala, which is at the feet of the Himalayas, northern India, to do some research on Tibetans living in exile. And there is a lot of Tibetans living in Dharamsala. And I ended up staying there for 3 months. I went for 3 weeks and I stayed 3 months because I missed my flight home. And I realized that I needed to stay because I got teachings from the Tibetan lamas and from the Dalai Lama. And it resonated with me so deeply because that was my language. That was what I had always had within me. And they understood. Their focus was on transcending the ego, dissolving the ego. And they had a very good map on how to go from the ego to oneness, how to go from our daily worries to being with inner peace, regardless of outer circumstances. And I discovered that this is what I have always aimed at. I remember once in a class, I must, probably at the time I was 20 or something like that. And there was this professor that asked all of us, what do you want when you grow up? Typical question. And people will answer, okay, I want a big house. I want to be successful. I want to be a good architect. I want to start a family and get married, typical answers. And when it was my turn, I said, I aspire to have a big heart and become a wise person. And then everybody would look at me like, where's this girl coming from? So it had always been within me. I accepted that I was weird and I was not like everyone else. I did not want to go out and get drunk and get into drugs and go to the bars. I wanted to become a wise person and find the answers that my heart was longing for. So yeah, that's a summary on how I went from one to another.
Now, in the beginning, I mentioned the matrix. What is your definition of the matrix?
For me, the matrix is the game we are playing here. This is like a simulation that we have chosen individually and collectively to play at, to be able to develop ourselves from a conscious path. So we choose to come here. And for me, the earth is not a school, it's a boot camp because it's so difficult and you get trapped here. But we come here out of our own will because we want to experience what is like to live at this very low level of vibration and be able from here to remember, to choose consciously the path of self-transcendence, to remember that we are one with everything else, even though it looks like we are separated. And to transcend the greed, the anger, the frustration, and to be able to become kind people, compassionate people, people with inner peace and empathy, at the same time being really balanced instead of just moved by everything, by the winds this way or the other way. So it's a very difficult path that we have here. It's a very bumpy journey, but this is what we chose as souls, as consciousness to do, to be able to bring that richness of experience with us to enrich the wholeness of the oneness and the source.
There are so many people on earth that are completely not interested in spiritual development or spirituality at all. Do you think those people are so caught up in the matrix that is the reason?
Yes. Well, I think it's partly because this is a journey of development and we go through different stages. We go through the conventional stage where most people are at right now. Like I would say probably around 70% of the population in Western societies and probably in the world, are at the conventional tier, where you get caught up in the social norms and perspectives and paradigm, and you get identified with the ego as well and the rational mind. This is where everybody, not everybody, 70% of the people are at. But this is just one stage. We all go through that at some point in either this life or past lifetimes. And then we can all go towards post-conventional tier and continue our development until we get to the unity stage and we get enlightened. So it's just a temporary step for everybody until we get to the final one. And of course, this happens over the course of many lifetimes. The Dalai Lama always says it takes eons of time to get enlightened. So the problem here, the most difficult thing is that once you come to Earth, you get caught in the veil of forgetfulness. So you don't remember what you came here for, what your mission is, the lessons that you wanted to learn. You don't remember that you are not this body, but you are inhabiting this body. You don't remember that you are coming from the other side where all that exists is love and understanding. And you come here and you forget about that. And you think you are in competition with everybody. You think you have to be jealous because someone else gets what you want. And then you get angry and then you get very reactive. And you don't control your own mind, your own heart. And it's all part of the game. But when you don't consciously do the path, do the steps, then what happens is you can get, I wouldn't say trapped as such, but you get delayed. And because there's no hurry up, the universe is not going to hurry us up. we can choose the pace of our own evolution. So we can repeat the course as many times as we want until we just pass it. And the universe is so benevolent with everybody, like that will accept everything because we have free will. So you choose how fast you want to go or how slow. And ultimately, it doesn't really matter because you will get there. Everybody will get there.
I think you said it perfectly. What makes this game so tricky is the veil of forgetfulness. And it almost makes you wonder, well, if we're supposed to come here and evolve and grow or whatever, why do we have that in the first place? Because, as you said, it keeps delaying us.
Because here's the trick. We are like carbon, and it's only the diamond is within us, but we only get the diamond under pressure. So we chose to come and go through this enormous pressure, this veil of forgetfulness, this environment, which is very primitive, very low vibrational. This is the highest degree of separation we can go through. And we do it out of our own volition because we know that whatever we learn here, because it's so hard and so harsh around us, it will be so valuable on the other side. And it will be so appreciated for our soul and from the soul plan that is worth it. Of course, when you are here, it's like, okay, this is too tough, too challenging. Why did I choose this? But of course, here we don't have all the information. We have very, very small pieces of the puzzle, and you can only make sense of the whole big picture once you have all the pieces. And here on Earth, while we are incarnated, we are not supposed to know everything, and that's the way the game goes.
Did the Dalai Lama ever say, how would a person know when he has finished the game and doesn't need to come back anymore?
You do know because you are living in a state of inner peace. You are living in the present. You are living in a state of equanimity. You are living in a state of true compassion, and you don't get identified with the ego anymore. So it's a very noticeable change, but it doesn't mean that others can see it. So this is the thing. Others cannot see it, whether you are enlightened or not. And there are a lot of stories within the Tibetan culture where they talk about monks that were so humble and no one would even notice them. And then when they died, they left their body and they found out that they were enlightened. So you never know. You never know. Maybe the person you are coming across is in a very high level of development, and you don't know. And also, because we are at this time on Earth where we are about to have a big shift in vibration for the whole Earth, I think this is a very interesting time for all of us. We are very much supported to raise our vibration much faster than before. And there are many opportunities to do that. And I just had a client I was working with some time ago, maybe a year ago, and she was not very willing to do meditation and to do things to improve her consciousness. She was very skeptical, and she only wanted to work on psychological things. And then she came back this week, and she told me about this big experience she just went through. And out of all my clients, it's probably the last one I thought would ever go through such an experience. And she told me, you know what? Now I understand what you meant when you said we have to work on our consciousness. And now I am willing. So this is the time where miracles happen. And this is very exciting.
Can you share with us the steps that you learned from the lamas on how to move from ego to oneness?
Well, they talk about the two wings of the eagle. And one of the wing is compassion, and the other one is wisdom. I I see it more like a triangle. What for me is the secret triangle, and one of them, the points is compassion or benevolence. Compassion is feeling empathy and understanding for the predicaments of others. And for me, it's about going a step even further, not only for people that suffer, but you have benevolence for everyone, whether they suffer or not. Also for people that are very successful, you have benevolence and goodwill towards them. Then the other point of the triangle for me is, they say wisdom, but I think sometimes wisdom is not well understood. I think it's also insight, to be able to see the world as it is, not as our brain filters it. So to see things as they really are beyond the five senses. And the third one for me, and this is not something that I learned with them, but in my experience, this is very important, is inner peace. Without inner peace, we are not able to stabilize our development. We are not able to stabilize our lives. We are not able to stabilize our minds. So inner peace is the antidote to all suffering. Inner peace is the base and the holy grail that we are looking for, but people get lost looking for it in the wrong places.
In your opinion, what is the best way to achieve that inner peace?
I think meditation is a must. It is impossible to reach inner peace if you don't meditate, because the mind is the monkey, it's the monkey that is always, it's a wild monkey. It's not even a pet, it's not a monkey in the zoo. It's a monkey in the wilderness. So unless you learn to quieten your mind, then your mind takes over. And we think it's something to do with the outside world. We think that it's because we don't have enough money, we don't have the right relationship, we don't have enough followers, we don't have enough houses or cars or whatever. We don't have enough. And this is why we think we don't have inner peace. So we are just waiting to have enough in order to protect ourselves and to make sure that we will be safe so we can relax and be at peace. And the thing is, I have worked with people, I have helped the transformation of people for the last 15, 16 years. And I have worked with people from all walks of life, including millionaires, celebrities, and business leaders. And what I have seen is they have exactly the same problems as the rest of us. They feel dissatisfied, they feel unfulfilled, they feel a lot of anxiety. Why? Because there's always more to have, more to achieve, more to acquire. And on top of that, you have the fear of losing what you already have. So what society tell us to do, which is go for more, can never bring you inner peace. So that formula is completely distorted. And that's why people suffer so much, because they continue on a path that has no end. And they can never relax and start working on themselves, because they think something from the outside will be able to fill their vacuum inside. This does not work that way at all.
So it sounds like not only meditation, but you've got to help them change their belief system.
Mm. I think you have to start understanding that the mind, that you have to work on the mind, because the mind is the one provoking your ill will towards others and yourself, and your frustration. So let's look at this with metaphor. When we go to the cinema, we watch a movie, and if the movie is good, then we are swept away by the emotions that the movie is provoking in us. And we forget that this is a movie. We are inside of the movie, right? well, this is how the mind works. There's not one only reality out there. There are 8 billions of realities, because it depends on our internal movie. So we have all these thoughts, all these images, all these films within us, in our minds, and then they're all completely distorted. They are even damaging to ourselves because they are full of negativity. We have a lot of jealousy, anger, frustration, wounds that we have not forgotten about. We have so much noise inside of our heads. And those films, sometimes I think they could even win awards at festivals because they are so good. And then we believe the movie, but it's nothing to do with what is going on outside. It's just our interpretation. And we do it so well that we feel it. And we think, because I feel it, it must be true. And it's just an interpretation, because we are the best directors, protagonists, and script writers of our own movies. But those movies are very damaging, very hurtful for ourselves and for others. So the way to change your life is to change your movie. And it doesn't depend on anyone else, it depends only on you.
So, how do we do that? How do we change our own movie?
Well, by taking charge of our minds, by cultivating them. The mind is like a garden. We have to cultivate our inner garden, our mind, our heart, and our soul. If we don't take charge of it, and we just think that we can live a normal life, without cultivating, training our minds and our hearts, then we are victims of the external world. We feel we are victims. Of course, we are never victims. But that's how that's our perception of life. So you have to train your mind to change anger and transmute it with kindness, with calmness, with serenity, to transmute the ill will towards others and ourselves with goodwill, to transmute our self-critical voice, our judgments towards ourselves and others, and make it self-compassion. Be compassionate to others. Look at others with a good heart, with benevolence, with kindness. So you transmute all the negativity into positivity. And I'm not talking just about, okay, be positive about everything. It's just a transmutation of all the damaging stories that we tell ourselves with a more realistic point of view. And a point of view that it does not identify with the ego and with the small self. You start looking at life from a higher perspective, realizing that this is the journey of the soul. And you're here just for a while. And you came here for a very important mission, which is grow in consciousness. So the things that happen in your life, instead of becoming very dramatic and very difficult in themselves, I'm not saying that everything is going to be pleasant. Sometimes unpleasant things happen in our lives. Sometimes we have to deal with situations that we did not expect. We are diagnosed a serious illness. We are fired from work. Our child we find out that is a victim of bullying. Our mother dies. All those things. Of course, there are challenges in our lives, but if we are able to look at them from the perspective of the soul, we know that they are happening for a reason. And they have an opportunity in themselves for us to become better persons. And if we look at it as an opportunity, then we are not feeling like an awful weight, and we don't make it a trauma or a drama, when it can be a lesson for us to grow.
Is there a specific type of meditation that you recommend?
I think one of the most I mean, all sorts of meditations are good, but one of the most powerful for me is the loving kindness meditation. The meditation when you start working on loving yourself as you are without any judgment and any criticism towards yourself. And then you work with loving someone or expressing love towards someone that is close to you and that you naturally feel love to. It can be also a person, but it can also be a pet, someone that you feel unconditional love towards. And then you end up, well, the third one will be a person that you feel indifferent and you don't have any sort of close relationship with. And at the very end, you also express love towards someone you don't like, someone that is obnoxious with you or someone that you have fought with or whatever. And you also feel love and compassion towards that person. And that what that makes it within you is you learn to open your heart and to develop goodwill towards everyone, because this is what is asked of us as souls and as people, as souls incarnated as people. Unless we do that, we cannot transmute our ego-based identity.
What kind of advice do you have for people who want to change their own lives and get out of the 9 to 5 job into something that's more fulfilling?
Mm. First of all, I think you have to be very perseverant, because usually it doesn't happen overnight. And we are so impatient that we think that, okay, now I have decided I'm going to change careers. And because this is aligned with my soul, now it's going to happen very quickly. And in my experience, my personal experience and my experience working with people, helping people to transform, I have seen that this is not a very, it can be, but it's not usually a very fast thing or as fast as we would like. So patience is a very important attitude towards this, perseverance and faith in yourself, because there will be a point where no one else will have faith in you. And you have to have that self-confidence and confidence and trust in the universe, that because you are aligning yourself with your highest good and the highest good of everyone else, then at some point it will happen, it will work out. So I would say that those are the pillars that you need to work with. And then something that was very useful for me was volunteering, because you go from self preoccupation and worrying about whether this is going to work out or not. You focus on giving, you focus on sharing, and you go from service to self to service to others in a very natural and organic way. So what I did is I went to Africa, I went to Tanzania for 6 months, and I volunteered there at an orphanage, and I also taught at the school. And that changed my perspective of life. I started to not to take things for granted anymore, things that we think are normal in our Western societies. And then you go to Africa and you see that people will never have what you have right now. It also made me, I wanted to be one of them. I didn't want to feel entitled and take like a private chauffeur or something like that. It's like, okay, I took the bus with them, and I was the only white, the only Muzungu, they say in Swahili. And I was squeezed in the bus like a sardine with them. And I walked the streets, and it was a very humbling experience, because you feel the brotherhood with others in a very tangible way. It's not like something that you just work in meditation with. It's you go through it, and you feel that kind of kinship with all humanity. You see that we are all one single family beyond our blood family, and that creates like a wave of goodwill towards others, regardless of their situation, the color of their skin, their nation, their culture, their religion. It doesn't really matter. We are one family, one human family. So it helped me a lot in many ways.
In your book, The 7 Levels of Wisdom, you write about 7 levels of consciousness. Can you explain to us what those 7 levels are?
Okay. As I said before, we are in a society which is abiding at the conventional level. So most of our society is at that. Well, our society is at the conventional level, and most people are at the conventional tier. And then there is a post-conventional tier. So within the conventional tier, we have 3 stages. The first one will be the conformist, and this is people that will not be able to challenge or question or be different from their religious group, their community, their ethnical group. They just want to fit in and belong there. So they don't dare to go beyond their costumes and rules. Then we have the expert level. And this is people that they do feel special and they want to be awarded for their superiority. They feel they are above the rest. They are not good team players, and they look down on everyone else. And they want to get to power in different areas to be able to, because they feel entitled to the power. And I think we know a lot of people like that if we look around, especially through TV. And then the third one, which is the last one, the summit, what in our society we think this is the summit, is the achiever. And these are people that they have a very rational mind. They only use the rational mind. They identify with their ego. And this is the obsession. The obsession is to be successful, to be looked at as a successful person who has achieved a lot. And the whole society pushes us to become achievers, thinking that this is the summit, this is the highest you can go. They don't know that we have 4 more stages after that, and we should strive for more. So the 4 next levels are, and this is like a Russian doll. It's not that you let the others go. It's like you integrate the previous ones, but you go beyond. You go beyond in awareness, you go beyond in understanding, you go beyond in compassion, and you go beyond in wisdom. So the 4th level, which is the individualist, is people that start questioning the paradigm of society. And they start realizing that maybe this is just one paradigm, but there are other paradigms that we can have or use. And a good example, so people can see it clearly, will be the hippies in the 80s, in the 60s. So this is people that want to be off-grid, or they want to question the rules of society. Then will come, the next one will be the strategist. And these are people mainly in professions that have to do with helping others. They want to become the best version of themselves, and they really want others to do the same. So they want to help others. A lot of them are healers or coaches or psychologists. They really therapists of any kind, because they really want them to become a better version, the best version that they can be. And the next one, that will be the 6th one, is the alchemist. And these are people that have one foot on this side, on the mundane life, and then the other foot on the other side, on the spiritual side. So they have a lot of complexity in their minds, and they feel very much alone because very few people can communicate with them in that level. They don't feel understood because of this. Sometimes they don't want to be on this earth and they want to be on this other side, but that wanting makes them feel the duality a lot, and that is hard for them. And the last one will be the unitive state, and this is people that have transcended the ego in a big part. So they look at themselves as tentacles of an octopus. So they are just part of the same thing, even if they seem to be separated. They know they are part of the same thing. So these people abide in peace, in compassion, in equanimity. They don't want people to be different than they are. They don't need situations to be different for them to be fulfilled. They can see that everything is perfect the way it is. And that's what we have to strive for, really.
So, in your book, you write about the Eastern spiritual philosophies and the modern Western mindset, and you kind of try to combine them together. Can you tell us how you do that?
Well, I think it's taking the best of Eastern philosophies without their culture. So, because there's an element of culture in all the religions, including the ones that are more advanced, as Buddhism, for example. When you are in Buddhist countries, and I have spent a lot of time in Asia, they have a component that is very cultural, and then you go to do things that will not make sense here. I don't know, for example, you have to do prostrations. You have to do 100,000 prostrations. Who is going to do that here in the West?
Well, do you
No one, right?
100,000 prostrations? What is that?
Yes.
What are prostrations?
Prostration is that you do like you do like salutation, and then you touch your head, you touch the ground with your head to remind yourself that you should forget about your ego. But you do it 100,000 times.
Wow.
And when I was living there, I did it sometimes, and I think it was a good exercise. But of course, in our busy lives here, it's just impossible, and you cannot try to translate that into our Western way of living. You know, it doesn't work. Or I don't know, just giving offers in the altar. Well, for them it's very important, but it's not really important for us. I think the most important thing is bringing here the map of consciousness that they have. They have been working at it for centuries. You know, they know the mind better than any psychologist will ever dream of, because psychology and psychiatry have only been here in the West for what, 150 years? And Buddhism has been going on for 2,500 years. And so many people dedicated their whole lives to progress in their inner path, on their inner path, and progress in their level of consciousness. So we have a lot of things that we can take from there without all the cultural um, things, elements that are not really ours anymore.
Do you think that you have to grow up in Asia to fully understand Buddhism because you're not in that culture?
No, I don't think so. I think, as I said, you just need to take the map and see whatever works for you. It's not about blindly accepting everything. And the Buddha himself was against that. It's like, don't accept what I say, just put it into action, see if it works for you. And if it works for you, then adopt it. But that's why I think we have to create our own maps, but it's always good to have already a map that works. And then you adapt it to your own life, to your own life circumstances, to your own character. That's what we have to do, to follow your own inner guidance and be able to work on your own discernment. It's not about accepting anything blindly, not at all. We have to question everything, but we have to also make good use of what is already there for us.
A few years ago, you had a profound awakening experience. Can you share that with us?
Okay, I will do my best. It's not easy to talk about peak experiences or mystical experiences because they are all ineffable. You know, you cannot put them into words. I started having experiences, those sorts of experiences, when I went to India the first time. That was in 2006, and that was the trigger for me to start having peak experiences. In those experiences, what will usually happen is I will remember spontaneously, I will remember a past lifetime where usually where I suffer a lot, and it was brought up to my consciousness to be able to heal it and let it go. So most of my experiences were like that. Some others were experiences of great compassion towards everyone, including killers and perpetrators. I would just feel an enormous love for everyone, and I will just cry and cry for hours because my heart was widely open. In a way, those experiences are very similar to what people have when they use ayahuasca and other sacred plants. They go beyond your normal state of consciousness. The difference here is that you don't take any substance, and you don't force it. So they only come to you when you are ready to be able to integrate them. And I think it's the safest way to do it. And I'm not the only one, obviously. There are so many people that are having those sorts of experiences without dying or going through a near-death experience. So it's just spontaneous peak experiences. The difference with my awakening experience that happened a few years ago was that whilst the other experiences were very profound and intense, eventually they will fade away. And this experience stayed with me. What I had after that is I had like a all-pervading inner peace that will not leave me at any time. Like it doesn't really matter if I go through a challenging time, my inner peace is there to give me a base to take things in a, I would say in a more detached way, but it doesn't mean indifferent. It's less reactive to whatever is happening outside, but very involved. It's not indifferent. It's not passive, or it would be like a more like a neutral state of mind, but with openness and goodwill to others. And that has been very helpful, to say the least, for myself in my own inner path, but also to help others, like the client I was mentioning before, that go through experiences themselves and they don't know what to do with them. They think they're going crazy. They cannot share with others because others think that they have a mental condition or something. So I think we are at a time where the whole earth is shifting and we are called to shift with it. So we are going to see more and more of this among normal or people. I mean, normal, I mean people that are on a spiritual path, but sometimes they are not even on a spiritual path. And they go through experiences that will change their whole outlook of life. And it's good that we go through that, because that breaks the matrix. But I don't mean it breaks the matrix itself. What it gives is a door on the wall of the matrix, so you know you can go through it. You are not trapped in the matrix. We are not. We can escape the matrix, but it can only do it through dissolving our ego.
So these past life memories would just surface or come to the surface spontaneously. Would they do that in dreams, or did you have some kind of catalyst to stimulate that to happen?
Sometimes I will be like doing some sort of physical therapy, like I will have the chiropractor touching something, and then it was like a memory in my cells that would trigger the whole thing, and it was like installed in my cells. It was still a memory within those physical cells, and then it will just trigger the whole experience. Sometimes it will be, I don't know, I remember being burnt at the stake, and I had to go through the whole experience to be able to overcome it, heal it, and let it go. Sometimes it will be an experience. I will just be, most of the time, sometimes it's meditating, and sometimes it's just in a state of contemplation, where my mind is very quiet, where my mind is not in a normal state of chat and chatter. And just the memory will just trigger on its own. I don't know why, I don't know how. And I will just go through it. It's very quick. It lasts for a few seconds or minutes, and it's very real, because I start crying and I feel very, very moved and emotional. It's not something I can provoke, because I can tell myself, okay, this is a past memory, and then I'm not going to cry about it. Or someone will tell me, you had this past memory, like a psychic or something. Well, it can be true or not, I don't know. But when you go through it and it's real, then the emotions get triggered as well. And that's something that you cannot push. It just comes.
Well, you are in Madrid, Spain. Is it possible that in a previous life you were a victim of the Spanish Inquisition?
I think was one of my lifetimes, yes.
In the beginning, you had the question, or you stated that you were not from Earth. Have you ever figured out where you are from, or at least seen a past life on another planet?
I have. For a long time, I had just this longing to go home. I knew my home was in the stars, was not here. And I have a big longing. It took me a long time and a lot of inner work to realize that I was not punished to be here. It took me that time a lot of long years to realize that it was out of my own volition that I was here. And I am not separated from my brothers and sisters. These are my brothers and sisters here on Earth, and I have my galactic family as well. And I am not separated from them, even if it looks like that, because of our garment, human flesh garment, but we are not separated. And it was only when I started to feel, okay, I wanted to be here, and I am not punished to be here. I'm not trapped here. They are with me. And sometimes I can feel their love and support, but I have to go through this on my own. We all have to go through this on our own, because we come here to obtain our mastery. And the mastery is achieved on your own. And something that was really helpful was reading Dolores Cannon's books, because it was then that I realized I was not the only one, that so many others went through the same, and I could understand why we came here. We came here because of that calling from Earth, and the Earth needed help for the shift, and we came here to help starseeds, light workers, as a mission that we took, that is helpful for the whole, and is also helpful for our own development.
Why do you think you were under the assumption that you were sent here as punishment?
Because I didn't understand people here. I didn't understand the cruelty of human beings. I couldn't understand how they were so evil towards each other and the animals. I just could not understand why they were so ignorant of the things that matter, and they were so obsessed with superficial things. I felt this is not my world. In my world, everybody is loving, everybody is um, cooperative, everybody wants the best for everyone else, and we all feel part of one family. I did not identify with the values or the lack of values of our society. That's why it's like, this is not my world. This is not my people. I don't understand them, and I don't want to be here.
Do you think that the Earth is the greatest challenge in the galaxy or the universe?
I don't know if it is the greatest, because I don't know consciously all of them. So it would be very presumptuous to say this is the greatest challenge for all. I know there are other planets and worlds in our universe where the conditions are very difficult, as they are here. So I don't know if it is the only one. I do know that this is a very important one because of a lot of things that we don't have all the exact information so far. I think that information will come in due time. But this is like the last place where we have to overcome duality and we have to illuminate the darkness. And that's why the position of our Earth and whatever is going on at this time here is so important for the whole universe. It's really, really crucial. So it's very vital that we make an effort to awaken and to help others awaken, because what is going on here will affect the whole universe. And there's a lot of responsibility on our shoulders.
Why do you think whatever goes on here affects the whole universe?
Because this is the last place where duality dwells, where there is a so-called battle between the darkness and the light. And we are ending a battle that had been going on in the whole galaxy and the whole universe. So by finishing it here, then we will, if this is the last place, then it will just dissolve in the whole universe. So it's very important. There are other universes, but this one is at the very end of a cycle. That's why.
I know this is kind of off topic, but since you mentioned Dolores Cannon, are you aware of the background people that she writes about? And if so, what is your opinion on that?
What do you mean by the background of people she writes about?
She believes that some people are just kind of like players in a game,
Um,
like a simulated person. I think she calls them background people.
mm,
Does that make sense?
it does. It does. I think it's very difficult to tell, but it seems that there are people that are just biological suits. They don't have a soul,
Mm-hmm.
and they're just playing a game here, their part. They're playing a role that we all need them to play for this simulation, but they are not. They don't have a soul, and I think at some point we will see that. This is not the right time to see it yet, but at some point when the shift continues and accelerates, then we will see that there are people that don't have a soul, that they were playing their roles, but they are just here as background people. Yeah, I totally agree with it.
All right. Well, again, your book is called The Seven Levels of Wisdom. If people want to learn more about it, do they go to your website or Amazon?
Well, it's going to be published like as we speak, so it will be available. It is available in pre-order everywhere. Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, Walmart, all the big bookstores, like everywhere. So that what they will find there is a more profound explanation of what I just briefly outlined on how to go from one stage to the next one, and what are the tools that we have to be able to grow in awareness, in understanding, in compassion, in kindness, and how we can all, because this is for everyone, we can all get enlightened.
Well, besides the book, do you have anything else that you're working on that you want us to know about?
I'm working on a documentary right now. I'm designing, hosting, and co-directing a documentary because I felt, well, I came across Abraham Maslow's work, and I mean what he did in the last 3 years of his life. Very few people know about this, but in the last 3 years, he was doing research on how there was another level beyond the one that he thought it was the last one in the pyramid of hierarchy of needs. And everybody thinks that this is the self-actualizers, people that have a sense of pragmatism, and they want to self-fulfill, and they don't mind what other people think about them. They go and use their talents to the best, and they are the best they can be. But those people tend to be doers, not really meditators. And they tend to have a very pragmatic and mundane view of life. And what he understood at the last years of his life, Abraham Maslow, is that there are other people who are even more evolved, and those are the self-transcendent ones. These are people that see the sacred in everything. These are people that are not identified with the ego. These are people that take everything as a very transcendent piece of the whole. They see themselves as part of something bigger. And and at the end, he didn't have the time to publish that work, but he made a lot of research about that. And when I came across that, I realized that this is something people need. There's a lot of information about self-help, right? A lot of people are talking about that nowadays, and there's no lack of information. And they all talk about abundance and being more successful and have a better family life, more balance with your professional and personal life, all these things which are good. But not many people are talking about how to get to be a self-transcendent one. We have the self-actualizer goal, but not the self-transcendent one. And what my higher beings of light told me is like, okay, why don't you do a documentary on the steps to get there? So this is what I'm working on. I'm preparing that, and hopefully will be inspiring for people to go through those steps consciously, and maybe we can help others to accelerate their path towards self-transcendence.
Now, this is the Maslow hierarchy of needs where the bottom is just survival, right?
Right?
Right. Okay. Well, once you complete the documentary, you'll have to come back and tell us about it so we can check it out, you know?
Well, for the time being, it's going to be in Spanish only, so I will have to wait until I do one in English.
Yeah. All right. Well, after watching this podcast, people may want to reach out to you and ask you questions. Are you open to that? And if so, how do they contact you?
I do have professional sessions that I offer to people. I mean, they have a fee, of course, but this is part of the job I do. And of course, they can do that. They can go to my website. It's monicaesgueva.com. So MonicaEsgueva.com. And there's the possibility to work with me on one-on-one basis. If they wish to have some guidance and help, they can do that. And otherwise, they also have the book.
Well, before we finish up, can you leave us with one last positive message?
There's a quote that is very, very powerful by Krishnamurti, Jiddu Krishnamurti. He used to say, there's no sign of health to be well adjusted to a sick society. And I think we have to take that into account. We have to go beyond this sick society. This is our calling now.
Monica, thank you for your message, and thank you for being my guest.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching the JeffMara podcast. I really appreciate you. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. And if you do, there are loyalty badges and other perks depending on your level of membership. All you need to do is click the join button underneath the video to find out more. Thank you for your support.